Today we celebrate the first glorious anniversary of the information purification directives. We have created, for the first time in all history, a garden of pure ideology, where each worker may bloom, secure from the pests of being contradictory thoughts. Our unification of thoughts is more powerful a weapon than any fleet or army on earth. We are one people, with one will, one resolve, one cause. Our enemies shall talk themselves to death, and we will bury them with their own confusion. We shall prevail.
Make America great again. Donald Trump.
Every record has been destroyed or falsified. Every book rewritten. Every picture has been repainted. Every statue and street building has been renamed. Every date has been altered. And the process is continuing day by day and minute by minute. History has stopped. Nothing exists except an endless present in which the party is always right. George Orwell, 1984.
Today we celebrate the first glorious anniversary of the information purification directives. We have created, for the first time in all history, a garden of pure ideology, where each worker may bloom, secure from the pests of being contradictory thoughts. Our unification of thoughts is more powerful a weapon than any.
As described by the Cambridge Dictionary, racism. Noun. The belief that people's qualities are influenced by their race, and that the members of other races are not as good as the members of your own, or the resulting unfair treatment of members of other races. Race. Noun. A group, especially of people, with particular similar physical characteristics who are considered as belonging to the same type, or the fact of belonging to such a group. As many of you may have heard, Kennedy Mitchum, a 22-year-old black Drake University graduate, wrote a letter to the editors of Merriam-Webster, demanding that they add systemic racism to the definition of racism. This definition will of course be left intentionally vague to make it so whenever a leftist doesn't get their way, they can scream about racism.
When you take off your uniform, are you afraid of police?
I have a question for you. You're white and you're telling this to two black police officers.
Yeah.
Do you see the problem with that a little bit?
No, I don't, because you know what? Just because I'm white and I haven't experienced racism myself doesn't mean I can't fight for justice. They're a part of the system. They're a part of the problem. Just because they're black doesn't mean they're not a part of the problem.
Gotcha.
I'm allowed to say this to whoever. Because I'm white, racism is a white person's problem.
Yep.
Racism is my problem. I need to fix it. That's why I'm here talking to all of them. Black, white, fucking brown, purple,
And then, when you explain that what happened isn't racism, they can point at the dictionary and claim that quote-unquote science is on their side. The left has essentially cried enough to get the definition of racism changed so it no longer has to be provable and doesn't even need to be about race. As described by the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, race, noun, definition 1. A family, tribe, people, or nation belonging to the same stock. Definition 2. A class or kind of people unified by shared interests, habits, or characteristics. Definition 3. A category of humankind that shares certain distinctive physical traits. Racism. Noun. Definition 1. A belief that race is a primary determinant of human traits and capacities, and that racial differences produce an inherent superiority of a particular race. Definition 2. A doctrine or political program based on the assumption of racism and designed to execute its principles. Alternative definition 2. A political or social system founded on racism. Definition 3. Racial prejudice or discrimination. Freedom is the freedom to say that 2 + 2 make 4. If that is granted, all else follows. George Orwell. But what happens if some perpetually butthurt black crybaby demands that 2 + 2 doesn't equal 4?
Words stop meaning anything. then there are no more answers, only better and better lies.
The left has finally done it. They've made it so that racism is subjective, not objective. One of the things I like to point out to leftists is that Mexican and Muslim are not races. That's as stupid as saying that Mexicans are part of the Spanish race and that Muslims are part of the United Arab Emirates race. But the way the left is attempting to redefine words, they've made it so that if a Mexican shouts at an Irish person, that Mexican is guilty of racism towards the Irish race.
You're fucking a white male!
Who controls the past controls the future. Who controls the present controls the past. George Orwell, 1984. Why would leftists do this? It's a long game, like destroying statues. Today they're destroying statues of Confederate generals. Tomorrow they're claiming that the Democrats weren't the original slave owners. Today they're burning books. Tomorrow they're claiming that the Democrats didn't start the KKK. Today they're censoring truth online. Tomorrow they're claiming that the Democrats didn't vote to a man against civil rights. You already see this revisionist history when they talk about a quote-unquote Southern switch. Just from a common sense perspective, this doesn't make sense. If there really was a Southern switch, Jimmy Carter and Bill Clinton wouldn't have won the South almost unanimously. The major cities wouldn't all have been voting Democrat for generations as well.
Well, why you booing me? I'm right.
Weird how leftists control the media, the education system, and most major corporations. If systemic racism exists, the only thing provable is that the left is racist. Every major city in the United States has been run by left-wing nutjobs for generations.
Under a new sanctuary city law that you approved in October 2014, the city of New York shields from the feds undocumented immigrants who commit what are deemed to be lesser offenses, but they include drunk driving and grand larceny. Why shouldn't the city of New York comply with federal law in this area? If you're a drunk driver and you're an undocumented immigrant, why should there be a place for you in this country?
Someone commits a minor offense.
But is grand larceny or drunk driving a very minor offense?
Drunk driving that does not lead to any other negative outcome, I could define it as that.
Whether it's the mayor, police chiefs, or city councils. Yet they're still in the process of revising history and blaming Republicans and systemic racism for the problems of the poor in those cities. If leftists were going to fix anything, they'd have fixed it by now. As always, like, comment, and subscribe. Or not. Like a good classical liberal, all I can say is you do you, my dude.
Trigger warning. I exist. I love Trump. Hey, I'ma vote Trump 2020, Trump 2020, I'ma vote Trump 2020.